Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope life is treating you exceptionally well. See, in this situation, should I just ride in the middle of the road? The speed limit is like 25 miles per hour. There's no bike lane. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Middle of the road. Now today's video, I am making this resource, putting it on the internet, of what I consider to be the best hub motor e-bikes at every price range. Up to date and accurate as of, let's say, the first half of 2023. Screw it, all of 2023. I recently made a video on the best e-bike conversion kits. If you're interested in that topic, go check it out. I also made a video on the best motorcycles. What else did I do? I make a lot of videos, check them out. They're all on the channel. But today's video is all about the best hub motor e-bikes. Branded bikes, so think like Super 73, although Super 73 is not going to be on this list because they are not the best, in my humble opinion. What is this? Why is that house blue? So let's begin at the low end of the price range and work our way up. So for like $1,000, there's actually like a ton of e-bikes to choose from. I would say this segment of the market is actually the most crowded. There's tons of random Chinese brands that make cheap e-bikes. In terms of the specifications, just about all of them now have that classic Bafang 750 watt geared hub motor and a 48 volt battery. So if you want a cheap bike, look for those specifications and pick the one that you like the most. I recently reviewed one of these bikes. The brand is Jan Snow. Again, it's a random Chinese company. But the bike was fine. It had that 750 watt motor, a 48 volt battery. So as long as you have realistic expectations, it's really not half bad. It gets the job done. And for $1,000, that's what you're looking for, to get the job done. Okay, but now let's move one tier above this, where we actually get to recognizable e-bike brands. It was still pretty cheap. We're at less than $2,000 to be specific. This one I have in mind is $1,900. And it's by Ariel rider, right? The X-Class, the Grizzly, they have all these models. But the one in particular at the low end of the price range is the Kepler. This is a fan favorite. You guys always comment, let me know about this bike. Because for less than $2,000, $1,900, we're getting a motor that's nominal 1,000. It's still a geared hub, Bafang. A peak of 1,800 watts, not bad. And the battery is extremely exceptional. 52 volts, 20 amp hours. One thing you're going to notice is that the bike itself looks like a bike, right? It's not the, electric moped that more high-end bikes tend to rock. It's just a classic bike. It does have fat tires, but they're larger bike wheels, 26 by 4 inches. It does have hydraulic disc brakes. That's a must in my opinion. Anytime you're talking about a motor, I think you need hydraulic disc brakes. This bike has it. Yeah, so the bike might not be the absolute best looking thing ever, but it's coming from a reputable brand, a very reputable brand. How long? Oh, finally, this red light was taking forever. Yeah, so the brand, extremely reputable. They're not really skipping on any of the major components. That battery in particular is very high quality. It doesn't have rear suspension, so keep stuff like that in mind. Go up to $2,000, just $100 more, you get the Wired Freedom bike. I made a video about a month ago talking about this, and I can't believe how phenomenal of a deal this bike is. Right off the bat, I'm going to say that the brand name here is a lot smaller, right, lesser known, so that's important too. That could be one potential negative here. But the rest of the bike, let me just tell you the specs. So again, this is just $100 more than the Kepler, and we're talking still a 20 amp hour battery capacity, but the voltage is 60 volts, 20 amp hours. That's the same voltage as a Suron, and I like that. I think more bikes should be offering 60 volt batteries. I don't know why 52 is kind of the upper end. So 60 volts. The motor also has a peak power of 2,000 watts, so a little bit more than the Kepler. If you recall, that had a peak of 1,800 watts. So this is a clean, even 2,000, nominal 1,000. It is worth noting that this is a geared hub, but they're not using Bafang. It's another company. So maybe that's how they're saving some money here. And just like with the Kepler, the frame, the design is very bicycle-esque. So if you want moped, you're gonna have to go up higher in budget for that. But something that's different than with the Kepler is this is full suspension. It actually has a rear linkage. It doesn't seem to be the highest quality, and for 2,000 bucks, I would not expect it to be the highest quality. And I noticed it also has hydraulic disc brakes, so they're really not skipping on any of the major components. I don't know how they're selling this for $2,000. All right, but let's proceed here. So the next two bikes are finally getting away from the bicycle design and into the electric moped that companies like Super 73 made popular. Now in the past, I would have said that the go-to no-brainer option is the X-Class. And that's still the case. But if you guys have been keeping up with the latest and greatest e-bike news, you know that we now have new direct competition to this bike from Ride One Up, and this is the Rev One. It's very similar to the X-Class in just about every single way. But of course the design is a little bit different. So both these bikes are 52 volt systems, 20 amp hours, so same exact battery capacity, voltage. The motor on the X-Class I think has a slightly higher peak wattage. So the X-Class has a peak wattage of 2000, and I think the Rev One Up is a peak of 1800 watts. So the X-Class is just ever so slightly more powerful. But aside from that and the design, these bikes are essentially the same thing, and they cost the same. Both of these are $2,400. They have 20 by 4 inch wide fat tires, same as I'm rocking on this bike right here. This is my favorite dimension of wheel. Now my close buddy actually has the X-Class. It's a fantastic bike, of course I've ridden it. And one thing I don't like about that is the seat is kind of uncomfortable. I think that's a pretty well-known thing about the X-Class. And from the looks of it, the seat is more plush on the Rev One Up. Now from this point, we're going to be moving up quite drastically. Because from this point on, of course, these bikes have hub motors, but they're not going to be geared hubs. They're going to be more powerful direct drive. So for $3,100, there's the new Lyric Graffiti. This looks a lot like a Super 73. They kind of went in that direction with the design. You have to note right off the bat that this is not full suspension, so it does have a suspension fork. It's fat tire, which helps a lot with absorbing bumps, but there is no rear linkage. Something to keep in mind, for $3,100 you might want full suspension, and I really don't blame you. But when it comes to the power, this is a major improvement from something like the X-Class. You do give up that rear suspension, but you gain a direct drive hub motor that's rated at 2,500 watts. That means the top speed just went from like 31 miles an hour to almost 40 miles an hour. That's the difference. It's still a 52 volt system, so it's not going to be crazy powerful like a 72 volt system or anything like that. And the battery capacity, I think it's only around like 17, 18 amp hours. There is a dual battery version you can opt for, but at that point, we're talking more like $3,700. And there's a better option in my opinion here, and that's the Onyx City 2. So this bike is going to cost you around $3,700. Again, we're talking a direct drive hub motor, but it's 60 volts. And the battery capacity is 23 amp hours. So quite a step up in terms of the battery as well as the motor, because the nominal wattage here is, if I remember correctly, 3,800 watts with a peak of like 6,000 something. And when it comes to the rest of the bike, the aesthetics, of course, this is from Onyx. They make the more popular RCR. They've been around for years. Another one of my friends has that bike. He's had it for about 1.5 years now. It's still doing fine. It's a rock solid bike. He loves it. So the City 2, it shares a lot of the similar DNA, and I think it's a great bike. Okay, we're getting close to the end of the list. We have 2 bikes left, and these are an even greater leap up the power level. So this next bike is again from Lyric. This is a new company, but they are making, why is this guy not going? They are making splashes in the e-bike community. This model is the Voodoo. It's not for sale quite yet. I think it's gonna come out in like spring or summer of this year. It's $7,000, so we're talking quite a leap up here in terms of price, but you're also getting a hell of a lot more. So this is the first bike on the list that's 72 volts. The battery is a huge 50 amp hours. As you would expect, the bike is full suspension. The geometry also looks to be good. I mean, time will ultimately tell just how good of a bike this is once it comes out and people test it. Hopefully I can be one of those people. But I mean, like the motor, for example, nominal 3,000 watts. It has a peak of a massive 18 kilowatts. I've never seen such a huge gap between the nominal and peak performance. But with power like that, you can achieve speeds of over 60 miles an hour. And you can actually register the bike if you want, so you can ride it as a motorcycle. It comes with a VIN number, so you should be able to insure, register it. And according to their website, you can actually order this bike with pedals or just pegs if you don't want to pretend. Alright guys, we are now on the final bike. And after seeing the Voodoo, you might be thinking, is there anything with a hub motor that's better than that? And honestly, I think there is. I also made a video on this bike a couple months ago when it was first announced. Ooh, gotta pay attention. It's still not for sale quite yet. This is another one of these kind of new generation bikes, although the brand that's coming from has been around for a while. And the bike is the Huck Stinger S. And just take a look at this bike. It's expensive, not gonna lie. It's the performance model, which is the only one I think is worth paying attention to, has a beginning price of around $9,000. So clearly not the budget option here. Just in terms of the raw power, it's actually a bit weaker than the Voodoo. So the nominal power is the same at 3,000 watts, but the peak here is a lot more modest at 8,500 watts. But I would say the main advantage this has over the Voodoo, and the whole reason why you're gonna pay $2,000 additional dollars, is one, the battery. It's literally twice the size, so it's still 72 volts, but it's 100 amp hours. 100 amp hours. That means this bike has an actual range of over 100 miles. In my mind, that takes it from being a toy to an actual usable machine. You can take this thing on long distance road trips, actually on the road, because you can fully register this as a moped. Although I'm sure if you wanted to and you rode it slowly, you could still ride it as an e-bike, because it's really not that huge, and due to the hub motor, it's also silent. So that's one of the reasons why it's better than the Voodoo, the battery. And the second is the design and the geometry. Just looking at it, I definitely prefer the aesthetics over the Voodoo. It's a lot more of like a dirt bike, kind of dual sport thing. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but I like it. And also, when you just look at the quality of the components, like the suspension, the front fork, it uses a motorcycle inverted fork. Also, the rear shock is located in the exact right position to maximize its usefulness. And actually, just like with the Voodoo, for the controller, they're using the very popular ASI 4000 controller, a time-tested, proven controller that's actually very customizable. Yes, that's my full comprehensive list of the best hub motor e-bikes, ranging from budget, around $1,000, all the way up to nearly $10,000 with the Huck Stinger S. Of course, for most people, the middle ground here is going to be that X-Class and the Rev 1 Up. They cost $2,400. They have a good amount of power. They're actual bikes, and they are a fantastic value, all things considered. You know, the reason why I'm just like doing loops here is because this road only goes to highways no matter where I look. So can't go that way. Can't really go this way either. I'm in quite a pickle. Ooh, this is a Lucid. Nice. Yeah, so let me know in the comments, guys, which bike, which class of bike is your favorite? Is this another freaking highway? How do I get out of this place? If you're still watching, you guys know I always appreciate a like, subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.